$4.87. That is the entire budget sitting on Maria Benedetto's kitchen counter this morning, counted out in quarters and crumpled singles, and by 6 o'clock tonight, 10 people will walk through her door expecting lasagna. Real lasagna with sheets rolled by hand, a ragu that simmers most of the day, and the bechamel her mother taught her in Naples in 1962. But a frozen family-sized tray runs $14 at the store down the block, and the version her family actually wants would cost a restaurant $40. So how does an 81-year-old Nonna beat that math? Maria turned 81 in March. She has cooked Sunday dinner for this family every week since 1987. First in a walk-up in Bensonhurst, now in a narrow brick house in Jersey where the radiators hiss, and the good table takes up half the front room. She grew up in post-war Naples, where her mother fed 7 children out of a kitchen the size of a closet, and nothing, not a rind, not a bone, ever hit the garbage. The $5 ceiling is older than most of the grandchildren she feeds, and the first item on her list is the one-ingredient food writers swear you cannot buy cheap: meat. At the discount grocery on Kennedy Boulevard, the cheapest ground beef is $5.19 a pound, which would end this story in aisle 4. So Maria walks past it. She buys a 2-pound bag of store-brand flour for 89 cents, 2 cans of crushed tomatoes for $1.98, 3 loose eggs for 54 cents, and a quart of whole milk for $1.05. That leaves 41 cents in her coat pocket. Then she crosses the street to a butcher shop that has known her for 36 years and asks Sal, the owner's son, for the day's trim. Fat caps, rib ends, the ragged edges off the brisket, the scraps a steakhouse pays to have hauled away. Sal charges her the 41 cents, rings it up as miscellaneous, and throws in 2 beef bones, because his father would rise from the grave if he didn't. Back home, the flour goes straight onto the wooden board her husband made in 1974, the one with the dip worn into the center from 50 years of exactly this. 3 eggs, a pinch of salt. She kneads for 10 minutes by the clock on the stove, leaning her whole body into it, because her hands ache now and the dough does not care. Then it rests under a bowl while she starts the part that will take all day. Total spent so far on pasta, $1.43. A box of dried lasagna sheets would have cost $2.50. Her granddaughter Gina, who is filming all of this on her phone, points that out. Maria shrugs. Dried sheets, she says, are for people whose mothers are still alive to scold them. The trim is the whole gamble. What Sal handed her is mostly fat and connective tissue, the stuff a test kitchen would toss, and if she cooked it for an hour, it would eat like rubber bands. So she doesn't cook it for an hour. She browns it hard in her tallest pot, deep enough that the fond turns the color of an old penny, then adds the bones and the tomatoes, plus a chopped onion from the basket by the window, and lets it barely move for 6 hours, a shudder more than a simmer. By noon, the smell has left the kitchen and taken the hallway. By 2, it has reached the sidewalk, and the mailman lingers at the door a beat longer than the mail requires. Somewhere around hour 4, the thing that made the meat cheap surrenders. The collagen melts into the sauce. The fat rises and gets skimmed into a jar for next week, and what's left shreds with a wooden spoon. While the pot works, she makes the bechamel, and this is where the accounting gets controversial. Milk, flour, butter from the door of her fridge, and a Parmesan rind she has kept in the freezer since April, dropped in whole to melt. Gina objects on camera that the rind is not in the budget. Maria's ruling is that the rind was garbage, and garbage is free, and if the internet disagrees, the internet can come knead the next batch. There is no mozzarella in this lasagna, and there never has been. In the tradition, her mother's recipe descends from lasagna al forno is pasta, ragu, bechamel, parmesan, and nothing else. The tub of ricotta and the pound of shredded cheese an American recipe calls for are the two most expensive lines Maria simply refuses to knead. At 4 o'clock, she rolls the rested dough into sheets thin enough to read a newspaper through, the pin knocking the board in a rhythm the whole house knows, and builds the tray in layers, sauce first so nothing sticks. 5 layers. Her mother built 7, but her mother was feeding people who had walked home from the docks. And now the steaks walk in the door because this is not a forgiving audience. 10 people are coming, and one of them is her grandson, Marco, who spent 3 years on the line at a red sauce place in Hoboken and has sent food back at his own engagement dinner. If the trim reads cheap, Marco will know. He won't say a word, which will be worse. Dinner is at 6. The tray comes out at 5:45, blistered at the corners, the bechamel gone the brown of caramel where it met the ragu, and it sits for 15 minutes because cutting it early is the one crime this family does not forgive. Then 10 plates, 10 portions, and the table goes quiet in the specific way that only means one thing at an Italian table. Marco takes a second helping before he finishes the first. Somebody's teenager, a kid who claims to hate red food, scrapes the corner piece. When Gina announces the budget, holding the receipts up to the phone camera, her uncle refuses to believe it and demands to see them. $4.87, every cent on paper, 48 cents a person, cheaper than the toll he paid to drive there. Gina's video ends on something older than the receipts. After the plates are cleared, Maria takes down the tin recipe box from above the stove and pulls out a piece of paper gone soft as cloth. It is a grocery list written in her mother's hand in Naples in the winter of 1947, when Maria was 2 and the city was still eating its way out of the war. Flour, tomatoes, bones from the man on Via Toledo, if he had any. Her mother fed 9 people off a list like that every Sunday until the day she couldn't. Maria has run the conversion with her son-in-law, the accountant, more than once, and in today's money he figures it lands within spitting distance of $5. The $5 ceiling is her mother's grocery list, carried across an ocean and kept for 79 years. Maria will do it again next Sunday, $4 and change on the counter, because the alternative, she says, is a family that only remembers her on holidays. Gina is learning the dough now. Her sheets still tear. Maria makes her start over the way her mother did. So here is the question the receipts can't answer. When a meal this good costs almost nothing to make and almost everything to learn, which one is the real price? And who in your family is still willing to pay it? Tell me what your grandmother refused to buy in the comments. Next week, the same $5 goes up against Sunday gravy for $12, and Sal's trim bin may meet its match. Word count, 1,324.